Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about a topic. Why does everyone have a supercar now, right? Either you own one, you know someone that does have one, likely you've seen many of them at your local Cars and Coffee. But why is that? Well, let's dive into that right now.
I strongly believe a lot of people think that a base level sports car are now supercars. For example, the Porsche Cayman, the Porsche 911, and the Corvette, and the list goes on and on. Now, I do believe that there are certain trims that may play a factor as well. For example, the Porsche 911 Turbo, the Porsche 911 GT2 and GT3, the Corvette Z06 and ZR1. I believe all those vehicles can make a valid argument that they are absolutely a supercar. But again, some of those are track-focused vehicles, which can be the argument of them still being a sports car. But I do believe it is a valid argument regardless. Now, I also think that we need to understand the era in which these vehicles were made. From the 80s and 90s, it was pretty clear what was just a sports car and what was a supercar. 2000 to 2010, the gap started to close between the two, and from 2011, and when this video is being made in 2023, many of these cars are now able to fit into multiple categories. So the gap has really closed between what was a sports car and what was a supercar. So what's the major difference between a sports car and supercar? Supercars must meet these basic requirements. If they don't, then it's just a sports car. It has to be a poster car. That's a requirement to be a supercar. It's a car that we all want to have. A unique design. It has to be purpose built where they put the emphasis on performance over safety. It has to be a high performing vehicle. It has to have rich history, whether it's brand or something that the car has done that's been unique. The history of a vehicle is very important. It has to be low production numbers. A car that's 20 to 30,000 made a year is not low production numbers. Those will be your regular sports cars. And the cost new, especially in the era in which it was actually made, that makes a huge difference. Is how easily was it able to, to be owned, right? That was the major differences. Now that we understand the differences between a sports car and a supercar, we know that the biggest difference is the design, the purpose built, and production numbers. Those are your three major differences between a supercar and a sports car. So let's go ahead here and take a look at some of the stuff here. In the 90s, the era, it was really when these horsepower, wars started to happen, right? The ZR1 came out and it was called the King of the Hill. Back in the 90s, a fast car in the 90s had 225 horsepower, 0-60 under 6 seconds. The economy was bad, but our dreams were still big. So after the Corvette came out with the ZR1, there were some iconic cars that were made, like the NSX, the Lamborghini Diablo, the Vector W8, the McLaren F1, the F50, and of course, right here, the Dodge Viper. In the 2000s came other cars like the Lexus LFA, Audi R8, especially the V10, the Ford GT, the Lamborghini Gallardo, the Murcielago, the Pagani, the Porsche Carrera GT, the Celine S7. This era is when it really started to become more of a supercar era, right? The 90s started the supercar era. The 2000s just made it more abundant, where there was more cars being made, unique cars, and people wanted them. And then after that, it just really exploded. I mean, now you have McLarens, Audis, Fords started making supercars. I mean, you have whole different, entry levels of supercars like the Dodge Viper. So it really started becoming a reality. So why does everyone really have a supercar now? Well, one, there's a lot more brands making supercars. So therefore, they're more abundant, right? So one of the things that we talked about was production numbers. It had to be low production numbers. Well, if you only have 5 to 6 different manufacturers, that gives you a very limited production numbers of ability to buy new supercars, right? But now you have entry level at Ferrari, you have entry level at Lamborghini. For a while, you had the Dodge Viper. You have so many other um, manufacturers making it. And of course Pagani, yeah, that's very expensive. But you have your Porsches, you have different manufacturers now that are making some, and some of these kit cars people consider supercars. So yeah, you can get some of these cars that you come off of a donor car and you make it and they become a reality of a supercar. I mean, they're so unique. They're still hand built. It may not have the legacy, but it has something. So that's the reason why we're seeing so many more supercars. But more importantly, is the way people are buying them. You know, back in the day, to own a supercar, you had to be able to either pay cash for it or get a loan that's done in 60 months, right? Well, now it's just like on regular cars, you have 72 months and 84 months loans. Well, in the supercar market, and this is what makes them so more abundant, okay? Yes, you can have all the different brands making them, but if we can't afford them, then it doesn't matter, right? Now, there are loan companies out there for supercars that will give you a loan for 180 months, right? That's a 15-year loan. This is why we have so many supercars now. Is every time someone comes around and they see that you have a supercar, they assume that you are super rich. You may be doing well off, but doesn't make you rich. Just because your car costs, as much as a house, you're doing a mortgage on a vehicle for 15 years. Yes, it becomes a little bit more affordable for a lot of people. So yeah, when you see people driving these exotic cars and you're wondering what they're doing, well, you may want to ask them how many years their loans are, right? Because the reality is a lot of these individuals you see at Cars and Coffee, a lot of these individuals that's driving these really high-end exotic cars, yeah, they're getting 15-year loans. And guess what? Ferrari does special loans. Lamborghini does special loans. Where guess what? Some of these loans that you're getting with them doesn't even show up on your credit report, right? They don't want the debt ratio to be too bad and actually harm you. So yeah, there's a lot of things that these banks are doing to allow people to buy these very high-end exotic cars. But why does everyone have a supercar these days? There's many more different types of supercars, but most importantly, it's the loans that people are getting on their vehicles. Well, guys, thanks for watching this video as always. God bless, and take care of yourself.